At 9:50 a.m. on February 25, 2025, disaster struck a construction site south of Seoul. A 50-meter concrete bridge girder weighing hundreds of tons was being positioned by a crane when everything went wrong. Within seconds, 5 spans collapsed in a chain reaction, killing 4 workers and injuring 6 more, exposing dangerous shortcuts in one of South Korea's most ambitious infrastructure projects, and serving as a costly reminder that progress built too fast can collapse just as quickly. To understand why this collapse mattered so much, you need to know what the Seoul-Sejong Expressway represents for South Korea. This critical piece of infrastructure connects Seoul, the bustling capital of 9.7 million people, with Sejong, the purpose-built administrative city that houses much of the country's government operations. The project began in December 2019 with a staggering budget of 3.1 trillion won, roughly 6.5 billion in today's money. The 55.86-kilometer expressway would slice through some of South Korea's most challenging terrain, requiring dozens of bridges, tunnels, and overpasses to connect two of the country's most important cities. The expressway was designed to support South Korea's ambitious plan to relocate government functions away from overcrowded Seoul. Thousands of civil servants commute between these cities daily, and the existing roads were becoming a bottleneck that threatened the efficiency of government operations. The project was awarded to Hyundai Engineering and Construction, one of South Korea's most prestigious construction companies. Hyundai has built some of the country's most iconic structures, including parts of the Incheon International Airport and numerous skyscrapers in Seoul's financial district. If anyone could handle a project of this complexity, it was Hyundai. The timeline was aggressive but achievable. Complete construction by June 2024. This would require coordinating hundreds of workers, massive concrete pours, and the installation of bridge spans that weighed as much as commercial aircraft. February 25, 2025 started as a routine day on the construction site near Cheonan, about 65 kilometers south of Seoul. The morning shift was working on one of the project's most critical elements, installing massive concrete bridge girders that would carry the expressway over a valley. Each girder measured 50 meters long and weighed hundreds of tons. Installing them required a specialized piece of equipment called a launcher, essentially a massive crane designed specifically for positioning bridge segments with millimeter precision. Safety devices called screw jacks were positioned to provide temporary support during the installation process, ensuring that if anything went wrong, the massive concrete segments wouldn't fall. At approximately 9:50 a.m., workers were repositioning a girder using the launcher when something went catastrophically wrong. The launcher was being operated in reverse, a procedure it wasn't certified for, when the concrete span suddenly shifted. Without the screw jack safety device that should have been in place, there was nothing to prevent disaster. What happened next unfolded in seconds, but would haunt South Korea for years. The girder collapsed, creating a chain reaction that brought down 5 separate 50-meter concrete spans. The sound was described by witnesses as like thunder, followed by an eerie silence as dust settled over what had been a bustling construction site. 4 workers were killed instantly, crushed by concrete segments that weighed more than most buildings. 6 others were critically injured and had to be extracted from the wreckage by emergency responders using specialized equipment. The images of twisted rebar and shattered concrete became front-page news across South Korea and around the world. Within hours of the collapse, teams of investigators descended on the construction site. The Korea Occupational Safety and Health Agency launched an immediate investigation, while Hyundai Engineering faced intense scrutiny from government officials and the media. As investigators began examining the wreckage and interviewing survivors, a different story emerged. This was a case of multiple safety violations that had created the perfect conditions for disaster. The first major finding was shocking. The launcher had been operated in reverse, despite being certified only for forward movement. This was a fundamental breach of safety protocols that put enormous stress on equipment that just wasn't designed to handle it. Even more damning was the discovery that the screwjack safety device had been deliberately removed by a subcontractor before the girder was properly secured. This device was specifically designed to prevent exactly the type of collapse that had occurred. Its removal was a conscious decision that directly led to the deaths of 4 workers. As the investigation deepened, it became clear that the safety violations were part of serious oversight failures. Internal documents revealed that Hyundai Engineering had approved a safety management plan that violated established construction standards. The company's oversight systems had failed at multiple levels. Site supervisors hadn't detected or prevented the unauthorized removal of safety equipment for over a month. Project managers had approved procedures that violated the launcher's operating specifications. The investigation revealed gaps in safety management that allowed these violations to go undetected. And perhaps most troubling of all, investigators discovered that the screwjack safety devices had been removed for over a month without detection by supervisors. The February 25th collapse revealed significant gaps in the safety oversight system that should have caught these violations. The government's response was swift and severe. Officials launched comprehensive investigations and announced enhanced safety oversight measures. The company faced intense scrutiny from regulators and the media as the full scope of the safety failures became clear. Behind all these technical details and corporate accountability issues were 4 families who had lost loved ones to preventable safety failures. The victims were experienced construction workers who had trusted their employer to provide a safe working environment. They had followed orders, shown up for work, and died because someone else decided that removing a safety device was acceptable. Their deaths sparked outrage across South Korea's construction industry. Labor unions organized protests demanding stronger safety enforcement and criminal penalties for executives who prioritize profits over worker safety. The families of the victims filed lawsuits, seeking not just compensation, but fundamental changes in how construction companies operate. The injured workers faced months of recovery and uncertain futures. Some would never return to construction work due to their injuries. Others struggled with trauma from witnessing the collapse and losing colleagues they had worked alongside for years. The psychological impact extended beyond the immediate victims, with construction workers across South Korea questioning the safety of their own job sites. The Seoul-Sejong Expressway collapse came at a particularly sensitive time for South Korea's construction industry. The country was in the middle of a massive infrastructure boom, with dozens of major projects underway as part of the government's economic development strategy. The collapse forced a fundamental reckoning with how these projects were managed and overseen. If safety failures could occur on such a high-profile project with such an established contractor, what was happening on smaller projects with less experienced companies? Government officials announced enhanced safety oversight and reforms to construction regulations. Authorities implemented stricter inspection protocols and increased penalties for safety violations on major infrastructure projects. The changes were designed to prevent similar disasters, but they came too late for the 4 workers who died in the collapse. The project timeline was also dramatically affected. The Expressway, originally scheduled for completion in June 2024, was pushed back to late 2026 as investigators examined every aspect of the construction process. The delay would cost hundreds of millions of dollars and disrupt transportation planning across the region. The Seoul-Sejong Expressway collapse teaches us several crucial lessons about modern construction and the importance of safety protocols. First and most importantly, safety devices exist for a reason and should never be removed or bypassed regardless of schedule pressures or convenience. The screwjack that was removed was a critical safety system designed to prevent exactly the type of collapse that occurred. Its removal represented a fundamental misunderstanding of how construction safety works and why every protocol matters. Second, the collapse demonstrated the dangers of using equipment outside its certified parameters. The launcher was designed for forward operation only, and using it in reverse created stresses and risks that hadn't been properly evaluated. When companies start improvising with safety-critical equipment, disasters become inevitable. Third, the incident highlighted the importance of effective oversight and accountability. Hyundai Engineering's failure to detect and prevent safety violations show that even experienced companies can develop dangerous blind spots when schedule and cost pressures mount. As of late 2025, the Seoul-Sejong Expressway project continues under new safety protocols and enhanced oversight. The section where the collapse occurred has been completely redesigned and rebuilt using more conservative construction methods that prioritize safety over speed. Hyundai Engineering faced several penalties, including business suspensions and criminal charges against executives. The company has implemented new safety management systems and hired independent safety consultants to oversee all major projects. The families of the victims continue to seek justice through the courts and advocacy for stronger worker protection laws. Their efforts have helped drive legislative changes that make construction companies more accountable for safety failures and give workers more power to report dangerous conditions without fear of retaliation. The Seoul-Sejong Expressway will eventually be completed and will serve millions of South Korean commuters for decades to come. But it'll forever be remembered as the project where 4 workers died because someone decided that a safety device wasn't worth the time it would take to use it properly. Their deaths were a preventable disaster that exposed fundamental flaws in how we build the infrastructure our society depends on. The question now is whether we've learned enough from their sacrifice to prevent similar disasters in the future. So, what do you think about this infrastructure disaster and the safety failures that caused it? Have you ever wondered about the safety protocols on construction sites in your area? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time when we explore more stories about the hidden dangers in the infrastructure we depend on every day.